Pooh? You girls on drugs?
Oh, I can't believe it. The time has finally come for the brand new Winnie the Pooh movie. As a loyal fan since forever, I just can't wait to see what this new, completely faithful movie has to offer. Oh, let's watch. What are they? That's not what it was. That's not what it used to be. Fucking hell, I don't get it. Why? Why is it like this? What? Nothing depicted this. Nothing. Do you know what? I'm not gonna take this line down. And what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna threaten the creator. That's what I'm gonna do. Threaten the creator. Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey is definitely a disappointment, but not so much for the reason that the immature man-babies say it is. Released this year due to now being public domain, the film was a commercial failure, getting almost only negative reviews, and I think the reason for this is simply being a generic slasher with iconic faces on the cover. It's not a complete travesty like IGN says it is, because they have no interest sucking off independent films. But like many others, this movie did get my attention due to its premise alone, causing me to once again build up some false hope, only to be disappointed. Again. The movie sees Christopher Robin coming home from college, the city that his childhood animal friends have gone somewhat feral, and become generic slasher movie villains, terrorizing a group of teenage girls, one having gone through a traumatic experience, and killing them in violent ways that are oddly enough not quite as generic. When this was first announced, I assumed my eventual analysis would give me something interesting to say, but aside from the insane response it's gotten, it's not that fascinating. And given the possible sequel and other characters due to get the same treatment, it's likely going to be even less interesting as time goes on. Luckily, that's not the case just yet, so let's see if Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey has anything to offer.
Deep in the 100-acre woods, a young boy named Christopher Robin came across some most unusual adolescent creatures.
Ah, a narrative intro. Or in production terms, budget constraints. This is to show us Christopher Robin befriending, what do they call them?
Who some would describe as abominations.
That's a way of looking at it, creating an everlasting bond between them. The problem is, this is a more realistic take on the story, and getting older and going to college is a thing.
Requiring them to fend for themselves once more.
Yeah, that tends to happen when you indefinitely feed animal-like creatures and then stop. This leads to them consuming Eeyore, an act so heinous it causes them to revert back to their animal instincts.
A pact was made. They renounced their humanity and returned to their animalistic roots, swearing never to talk again.
And to kill anybody they see in the most violent way possible. A bit more relevant than not speaking. And for what it's worth, I do like this intro. Obviously, it's the way it is due to the stuff they can't show, but still, it was a good way to get around that. We time skip 5 years and see Christopher all grown up, played by Nikolai Leon, and his fiancée Mary, played by Paula Coys. He's all excited to introduce Mary to his childhood friends, but the only problem is, she doesn't really believe it. She actually thinks they're just imaginary, and he's convinced himself they're real. Something you should probably resolve before agreeing to get married.
That strong imagination of yours is what's made you so successful.
No, it means he's fucked in the head and you just agreed to marry a crazy person.
Why are we even here if you don't believe me?
I was wondering that myself. Why are you engaging in this insanity?
I don't think we're going to find them, but I'm here to support you.
In what you believe is a delusion? Yeah, that's a good idea.
Pooh! Come on, Mary, it's them! It's them!
A distant howling?
Pooh!
That sounds like none of them, in any remote way. mean, I know it's not a big budget, but why that? They find the place has changed a bit. She looks directly at Eeyore's grave, but that is not enough to get Christopher to leave. That is until her "it's all in his head" theory is proven false, in which Pooh shows up, meaning they must hide in not very good spots. It does get them through until night, in which Pooh finally falls asleep, meaning they can leave. She's attacked by Piglet, played by Chris Cordell, and this kind of thing is what I came to see. Christopher Robin begging Piglet not to kill his fiancée with a chain doesn't make the movie good, but you can't deny it's fun to watch.
Pooh, you need to help me, please. There's something wrong with Piglet. He just killed my wife, please.
So just imagine being a kid, watching the original stuff, and the line that was just said. I mean, you probably wouldn't say it that way. The writing leaves a lot to be desired, but again, it's good stuff. And then Pooh shows up, played by Craig David Downset, and unfortunately, if you look past what this is, the repetitive lines and subpar acting are a bit more noticeable.
Why are you doing this, Pooh? We used to be friends. Why are you doing this, please? Piglet, I'm so sorry. I didn't know any of this would happen. I thought you'd be okay without me. Why are you doing this? We used to be friends. Why? Stop! I would have never left. I swear. I swear. We used to play together as friends. Why are you doing this? Stop. I would have never left. I swear. I remember when we were younger, Pooh. Please.
Aside from the time he wasn't speaking, which isn't that much, none of that was edited. That's how repetitive that was. Also, that kinda looks like Rabbit and Owl. Why they keep them alive to not appear makes very little sense. But he's taken prisoner, and after some credits we meet Maria, played by Maria Taylor.
The slightest noise and I can just feel my heart racing.
Okay, I know slasher movie characters aren't known for being that interesting, but this is about as low as it gets. Maria, along with her 4 friends, do not have a memorable quality to their names. One's a bitch, 2 are together, I think, it's not explained that much, and the one with the glasses will likely live second longest, as she has no reason to be killed off sooner, as in, not even a cliché trait. Yeah, Maria did go through a dramatic event in which somebody came into her bedroom at night, but spoiler, it doesn't affect anything aside from being the reason she came there, and one real stupid scene we'll get to soon. Why they put this in, I have no idea. Anyhow, they've rented a cabin in the 100-acre woods, and made an agreement to have no phones. An agreement that, damn it, they will stick to. There's also Tina, who's gotten lost on the way, played by May Kelly, but in this case, it's just a chance to show off one of the movie's better qualities. That I did not see coming. I mean, this early on in broad daylight, you're usually safe. At this point, we get to see the way he looks, and despite the criticism, I'm actually okay with this. IGN claims they should have given them fur to make them look more like animals, but I really don't see why they do that.
Like, the only animal attributes are rubbery, full-faced masks that show no fur, visible human mouths, and minimal expressions. Like, it's a cop-out workaround.
Yeah, it's clearly a guy in a suit, but considering what it's based on, that does make the most sense. I'm not saying you couldn't have gone for a more realistic approach, but given the movie's production and the source material, I just don't get this complaint. The shaky camera is a bit more problematic, I guess, but again, it's not that bad. As mentioned, IGN had no interest liking this movie, not that they should have, but you can't deny the bias here. It's just not as bad as they say it is.
What an asshole.
She attempts to hide, again in a very obvious spot, and despite a wood chipper being present, it doesn't get used for anything except disposing of the body. I mean, yeah, her death is quite brutal, as most are in this movie, but it's a fucking wood chipper. I want to see it get used. Still, it is one of the film's better scenes, and has an authentic feel you don't usually get from an average slasher movie. Unlike this other scene that fits more into the torture porn category, and is the reason I can't outright hate this movie. We see Christopher tied up, like in the fucking Chainsaw movie, being whipped with Eeyore's tail, sprayed with his fiance's blood, all while saying stuff like this.
People wouldn't understand you, Pooh. Not like I did.
To say this movie is a complete disaster that shouldn't have been made, I just don't think I could go there. You've probably seen the best of it at this point, but it does make the next 45 minutes worth watching. 45 minutes of utter nonsense, as the bitch, played by Natasha Tazine, has already broken their no-phone agreement, in which she spots Pooh on the phone, and remember how I said the stalker thing would affect something?
Are you stalking Maria?
Yeah, she thinks the thing on the phone that is clearly not a normal guy is the stalker, and decides to ignore it. I mean, it's not like he could be dangerous or anything, just came into her friend's room at night. Harmless stuff, I guess. That's right, Mr. Male Thief, I know it's you. You may not fit any description, but you were standing pretty close to one of the 50 houses that was robbed last week. And if you think this means I'm gonna go and get the mail now, you have another thing coming. Fuck you. Hold off a minute. This way, you'll think somebody else stole it. Ah yes, it says you can hit the like button down below and subscribe if you enjoy the video. As long as you don't get offended by anything remotely good being said about this movie. So, as you may have guessed, it's actually Pooh and Piglet who tie her up and run over her skull in an incredibly slow manner. I sure hope you enjoyed that death, because from this point on, the movie kind of goes to shit. The blank slate they call a cast realizes something is definitely not right, and in classic slasher movie fashion, lack any common sense.
Whoever it is probably wrote that.
What gave it away? The fact that it's written in blood, or your friend outside under the car tire? This is, of course, not a good enough reason to leave in the direction that Pooh isn't, but to give them some credit, they do realize he's not human. They split up because that's what you do, and the two supposed lovers head to the pool room for a scene that had to have been written with something else in mind. Zoe, played by Danielle Ronald, ends up in the extremely narrow pool, and it would seem that her and Piglet think there's only one way in. Again, no editing here, she makes no attempt to get out, Piglet climbs in at the very end, giving her plenty of time to escape, so the only explanation is they'd planned for a bigger pool. I don't know why they got stuck with this, but they probably should have just cut this scene out, because it's real dumb. Even if they were the best developed couple in movie history, which they're definitely not, it still wouldn't make this remotely sad. They abduct Dallas, played by Amber Doing Thorne. I guess the other two couldn't hear this, and we get this scene. Again, it's something you never thought you'd see, but at this point it's starting to get old. They immediately rescue her, that's literally what it cuts to next. They hear somebody screaming and decide they can't leave them. They end up finding Christopher Robin, who is very easily untied despite the chain sound effects. Given it's clearly rope, I don't know why they felt the need to do this, but that's not the sound they heard. He has to stay behind though, because he's too tired I guess, and they locate the other hostage, Charlene, played by Danielle Scott.
What have they done to him?
Oh, it's awful. They've thrown paint at her. They waste time talking about how Piglet threw paint at her, and the fact that they do speak some kind of broken English, which is odd, but given the fact that she's actually chained up, escaping's not gonna be easy. I don't know. You really couldn't have just had them pick up a rock and bang on it for a minute? I mean, this is ridiculous. But she realizes the pain's never coming off, and she's not leaving until she gets revenge, and they have a fucking gun? Do you realize the effort American slasher movies go through to get around this dilemma? This movie takes place in a location with gun laws, giving them every fucking excuse for them to not have a convenient firearm. But, again, somebody with a disfigured face saying, "Piglet, where are you?" is pretty damn funny. The gun only has one bullet though, because I guess that's their new policy, and she wastes it on absolutely nothing, so she's held down, has honey poured on her face, and is mauled to death while the other three do nothing. They find out Pooh is afraid of fire, a strategy they immediately abandon even though it seems to work. And Alice easily knocks out Piglet, ties him up in real chains I assume, and supposedly kills him in 3 hits. That's 4 hits, keep that in mind, and the reason I say supposedly is because even though he doesn't appear again in this, he could easily come back in an eventual sequel. Alice, on the other hand, is not coming back in any sequel, and the remaining 2 come across some men who think, hey, instead of just leaving in the moving vehicle, let's attack the bear creature thing. While the girls say, let's watch them do this instead of escaping in the moving vehicle.
Hey, yo, what you been doing to them girls, huh?
Vehicular death, a machete through the mouth, and the dumbest fucking bull chase ever. But unlike Piglet, who went down in 4 hits, Pooh seems to be invincible. I guess it makes sense, his name is in the title, and again, the deaths don't disappoint. One of them has enough sense to leave, but he summons the bees to finish him off. This gives them just enough time to not escape, allowing Pooh to climb on top, causing them to crash into nothing. Jessica, played by Natasha Rose Mills, who I've had no reason to mention yet, gets an off-screen death, proving how pointless she is. But luckily, Christopher is finally through resting.
Oh, bother.
Okay, that was fucking badass. It still doesn't kill him, as he's one of those villains, and repeating the same lines is not gonna do any good.
Why are you doing that? Please, why are you doing that? Why won't you stop?
Hey, we talked. Who would have thought? So he kills her too, violently stabs the skull, and Christopher runs away in anguish. Not the happiest of endings, but on the bright side, they did stick with the no phones agreement. So, that was Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and, it's a thing. Again, it's simply disappointing. It's disappointing for somebody who wanted the movie to be good, and also someone who wanted this review to be somewhat interesting. Yeah, we can make fun of the shaky camera, the costumes are questionable at best, but not as bad as some say, the decision-making is beyond stupid, even for slasher movie standards, but if it wasn't what it was, nobody would give a damn. Despite being independent, this really would fit in with what Hollywood produces today, being mediocre, empty movies with maybe a single unique gimmick to keep you invested. In this case, it's being based after Winnie the Pooh, which is obviously going to get anybody's attention, but as we've established by now, simply take that out and you've essentially got nothing. You could easily switch this with any other movie that puts the villain in a furry costume for the sake of shock value, and you really wouldn't know the difference. There are some undeniably fun moments in this simply because of what it's based on, but that kind of thing can only go so far. To be honest, the first half was real good, giving me most of what I wanted to see, and it kinda fell apart from there. The best thing about this is that almost every kill is unique and gory in some way, but it seems like that's where most of the attention went. I don't really expect more from a slasher movie anyway, so it's not that bad of a thing, and I don't think it's as bad as some say it is. If you're one of those people who are mad about this for the concept alone, then you're a loser and have no life. But if this, along with similar disappointments like The Mean One, don't have you hyped for more movies like this, I really can't blame you. Being the optimistic type that I am, I don't want to give up on these just yet, but after seeing this, I can't say I'm currently that enthused. I'm the Analyst, and remember kids, Blood and Honey may have not been what we wanted, but luckily it's not the only movie to come out last February about a homicidal bear. So, you've made it to the end. That's an impressive feat indeed. Since you managed that, I guess check out the gaming channel, in which I cover a variety of gaming topics, like analysis videos, such as this one. If you're into that, then press the link in the description. It's that simple.